So I was asked an interesting question the other day, and that question was a follow-up to my video about first chakra consciousness. And their question to me was, is evil a part of first chakra consciousness? And I thought about this for a bit. And I would like to respond by talking about some of the darker aspects of first chakra consciousness. So to recap, I will say that people that are locked into first chakra consciousness are in an infantile stage of development. Basically, they are all need. They are grasping for what they need. They expect others to furnish what they need, and they need greedily. When somebody is truly locked into this chakra, that perspective is looking to take and to take as much as possible, without any thought of reciprocity or effort of their own. People locked into this first stage of consciousness um, have not opened up the higher chakras to be able to love and care for others. And so, love and relationships to them are a series of transactions. What can they get from somebody? Um, what is somebody going to get from them? Often people locked in this chakra believe that they are giving a great deal to others, and they may even lament this, um, about how that nobody wants to be around them and their relationships do not work. But they offer and give so much of themselves to other people, and they don't understand what's going on. I will say that a certain percentage of those people who talk about that need some counseling and to have some boundaries and to discover that they have worth outside of their usefulness. Somebody in their history has made them believe that they are only worthy of care and affection to the extent that they are useful. Well, that is a first chakra difficulty, um, in terms of self-esteem, self-worth. That really is about the first chakra, as well as really the first three chakras are sort of personal chakras. That certainly is something that can be worked on through the first chakra, as well as the second and the third. But what I'm talking about here is a little bit of a darker energy. It is somebody who might consider themselves to be an empath. And what is really happening is that they're in that infantile state of absorption and lack of separation, where they are really putting their thoughts, their values, their emotions onto other people because they cannot see other people for who they are whatsoever. The whole world is sort of an extension of their own feelings, their own expressions, their own emotions. So, if I were to talk about the darker aspects of consciousness from this perspective, I would say that somebody coming from this perspective, from locked into that first chakra aspect of consciousness, still does have some consciousness. And what does that mean? Typically, when people ask me about evil, they are talking about psychopaths. They're talking about those completely soulless people out there who do grave harm, whom we can see on, 8,000 episodes of Law and Order or Dateline, or, the populator screens. That doesn't have to do with the first chakra perspective. That is more a moral and spiritual emptiness that is system wide. There is something quite wrong with the soul, an emptiness or void of soul completely. The evil that I'm going to talk about here is the evil that we run into every day. It's, we can kind of talk about it philosophically as the banality of evil. Because the darker perspective or consciousness from the first chakra perspective is somebody that has no sense of self. And so what they do is that they try to take other people's identities, other people's sense of selves. They thieve, they lie, they steal, all to sort of cover up that they do not have a sense of self developed. And so such individuals may try out being one person one week or one person another week, or they may be fixated on an individual. And what happens is that they attempt to absorb their personality. This is quite a creepy thing to have happen. If any of you have had it happen to you, I have as a spiritual teacher, where all of a sudden somebody is speaking your words out of their mouth, where they are copying everything that you do. Um, for those of you familiar with the movie Single White Female, which is showing some age, I'm sure there are newer representations of it. But it clearly shows this kind of lack of sense of self and how the individual locked in first chakra consciousness will attempt to cope with it by sort of stealing or thieving the energy and identity of others. This is because without that core sense of self within themselves, they are identityless, sort of formless. And so they cannot come up with their own thoughts, their own ideas, their own creativity, their own kind of, this is who I am, these are my hobbies, this is what I like, what I don't like. And so they will try on other people's sort of like hats. Um, A common wound of the first chakra that leads to some pretty dark stuff is an abandonment wound. And so I will say quite clearly that when we are children, if we experience abandonment, rejection, or neglect, it is not our fault. It is unfortunate that that happened. But when we are adults, if we are still playing out that dynamic and harming others due to it, it very much is our responsibility to seek out therapy, healing, our own self-work to heal that wound so we are no longer abusing or harming others. So, the darkest aspect of this abandonment wound is somebody who is completely stuck in victim mode. They think that the world and people and everyone else is out to get them, and they will often list out a long list of failed relationships. And it takes a lot for somebody to recognize that the common denominator in those situations is them. That they are, in fact, not the victim, they are the abuser. And in seeking to unconsciously repeat the abandonment wound again and again, what they are doing is creating great pain, dysfunction, and abuse in their relationships. They can sometimes harass, harm, or seek to manipulate others because, again, the perspective is an infantile one. They don't have adult social skills. And so the result of this is that they either will get an unhealed relationship after unhealed relationship, or people who are in relationship with them, even if they are quite compassionate and understand where they are coming from will reach their limit at some point and they will say enough. And what this does is it proves to the person stuck in that first chakra abandonment wound that they have been victimized and harmed yet again. And so while I'm well aware of the sort of evil in this world that populates, Dateline and our TVs and our serial killer movies and everything like that, that abandonment wound perpetuation that comes from the first chakra perspective creates more everyday harm than really any serial killer could. I know that seems a bit hyperbolic, but it really is true because so many people have this wound in varying ways. And I will say that people who have this wound and are willing to work on themselves can do wonderful work and can have come from a place where they are working on themselves and they recognize this wound and they no longer create it in their relationships with others, or they have aspects of their consciousness in other chakras. And so they can form relationships with others that begin to be healthy and that do not create this dynamic. But what I am talking about here are people that are truly stuck in this dynamic and are likely not going to um, move out of the darkest aspect, the most locked up in aspect of first chakra consciousness, because to do so would mean that they would need to reckon with all of the people that they have harmed, that they have not been the ones to be abused in their adult relationships. They were the abuser, they were the harmer, they were the perpetrator of harm. The people quite stuck in this first chakra consciousness are miserable. And so often they take out this misery upon themselves through their thoughts, through their actions, through the way of being in this world. But a lot of times they take out this harm on others as well. They hate others, they're jealous of others, um, they resent others, they mock others. They are continually in a process of projecting their own disowned hatred, self-hatred, and self-worth issues onto other people. In a way, I call people like this energetic vultures because what you will find is that people really stuck in this sort of energetic vulture mode will have kind of two modus operandi. The first is that they will identify the wounds, the sort of soft spots in others, and attack. So if somebody is quite soft, quite compassionate, quite passive, that is a prime target for them to energetically feed off of. They will get a momentary satisfaction or even a momentary sort of delight out of calling people out of feeding off of their energy, out of asking questions that they know will create pain in other people. And so this creates a lot of harm, especially in people who have not yet learned to stand up for themselves, or people that are going through a difficult time. Ideally, people who do have, a bit more of a backbone, have worked on themselves, can not only stand up for themselves against such vultures, but can also stand up for other people if they see this energetic vulture dynamic. It is quite common. It is quite unfortunate because the person locked in such a dark place of that first chakra consciousness does not have their own energy. They are coming from such a place of spiritual poverty that what they are trying to do is essentially feed off of the energy of others, even if it is their pain or embarrassment or, whatever they can sort of create, provoke, or manipulate to get a response that creates heightened energy that means that they could feed off of it. The second modus operandi for that same sort of energetic vulture is that if somebody has success, if somebody is experiencing joy or happiness, that is when this energetic vulture will attack. They will attack best they can by saying or doing harmful things to, again, create a reaction so that they can feed off of the energy of the other person. And also, it serves the effect of that old expression, misery loves company. The idea that somebody could feel joy or energy, peace, success, prosperity, contentment, um, any of the sort of material, emotional, spiritual health that can be had in this world, they will despise this because they cannot have it within themselves. And so, out of that jealousy, out of that lack, out of that self-hatred, they will attempt to attack and take down and thus feed off of anybody that is willing to, offer them a bit of energy or in reactivity. So, what's the best way of dealing with somebody that is sort of locked in this first chakra perspective? There certainly can be a thought of seeing them quite clearly, because when you can see them quite clearly, what happens is that you can recognize what they are doing. Oh, that person is being an energetic vulture. The caution that I have for those of us who are quite compassionate is that if we look at such an individual, we can see the emptiness, we can see the pain and the suffering and the complete lack of connection, the mental health issues. And for a lot of us who are caring individuals, this can mean that we can empathize with such a person, but in such empathy and such kindness, there is a question of if we are letting such a person feed off of us. There is being nice, there is having empathy, there is having compassion, but then there is the reality that some people need to be excised like a cancer. I know that some of you may not like this. A lot of the spiritual realms are filled with really kind-hearted people who are unfortunately stuck in sort of naive childhood realities in which they have not had yet experience of the world, experience of the type of harm that people can do to one another, or they have experienced that type of harm, but they are rightfully hoping for a better world, a world in which such people could, see themselves clearly, could heal, could be a better person, could offer love and care and, all of that sort of stuff. Um, and it can take a lot of healing work, a lot of introspection to recognize that some people are simply harmful and that you need to have boundaries no matter how much compassion you have for them or no matter how much suffering that you see in them. The proper energetic response to somebody who is locked in this consciousness, who thinks that they are the ultimate victim of reality, who is replaying their abandonment wound, who is an energy vulture, is no response because they want your response. They want to engage you in whatever chaos, in however they can lure you in order to feed off of your energy. It is an unfortunate part of reality to start to see these sort of dynamics. Sometimes we can tend to go overboard and announce everybody is a narcissist, everybody is an energy vampire, everybody's an energetic vulture, and that is certainly not true. Most of us, even those of us who have significant wounding, make damn sure that we do not create harm for other people, that the cycle of abuse, the cycle of whatever we are going through ends with us as soon as we are aware of it. But there are certain people that are not ready or not willing yet because, again, to rise out of this consciousness would mean taking responsibility for themselves, putting in some effort, doing the work, coming into clarity about how there's a lot of nuance in the world. The world isn't black or white. And one of the most significant aspects of being locked in this consciousness is the black and white thinking that I've been talking about. And again, if we were to return to that question of evil and darkness, there are a lot of people in this world who very much believe themselves to be good people, and they are locked in the first chakra because to believe otherwise would be too overwhelming for them. To look at the times that they have harmed others, that they have created burden for others, to look at how much they ask from other people, how much they take from other people versus how much they give, to look at any behaviors of lying, stealing, manipulation, harm, abuse, and just general dark energies that they bring into the world is a lot to ask from somebody, especially if they're really locked into this chakra. The good news is that most of us are not locked into this chakra. Most of us have the consciousness or awareness to be able to listen to this and to perhaps identify some people in our lives who have this type of energy or out in the world, and we can recognize the mechanism. We can feel compassion for them and we can sort of move on. Okay, that person doesn't have a sense of self. They're looking to feed off of me. No, that sort of thing. That is what awareness brings you. Others of us, when we are ready, we can utilize even the most harmful people in reality for our own awakening. And so, what that means is that it is totally normal to feel hurt, to feel all angry, frustrated, all sorts of emotions at somebody abusing, attempting to feed off of us, harming us, creating chaos in our lives. Those are all totally normal things to feel grief about, to feel sadness about, to feel hurt about. And we should very much feel those reactions. But if we go beyond that reactivity, if we are willing to look at ourselves and see if there is a part of us that relates to that person? Is there a part of us that has the abandonment wound that needs to be healed? Is there a part of us that is locked in sort of depressive self-absorption at times where everything is woe is me to the extent that we cannot see anybody else outside of it? Is there a part of us that cannot come to terms with the fact that maybe we have created some harm in this world? Maybe we are not always emitting the best energy. Maybe there have been times that we have taken much more than we have given. If we are willing to look at, kind of those aspects of ourselves, and when we are triggered by other people, if we are beyond just feeling whatever our initial reaction is, if it remains, that can surely show you that it is a good time to do shadow work. And what I mean by that is really looking at yourself, looking at aspects of yourself that are reacting so much to that, and seeing if you actually can relate to that darkness, to that dark energy, to that process within your body. Because somebody who is locked into the first chakra, their entire reality may be dark and miserable. They may be continually seeking to pull others down into their misery. That may be 100% of their reality, is that you are around that person and you come away from them feeling like there is a toxic sludge on you because of everything that I've mentioned here. But if that person is 90%, 100% in that reality, totally locked into that, most of us may have 50% there, 40% there, 10%, 5%, 2%, 1%. If we are really willing to look at the most toxic, the most evil aspects of ourselves, they aren't going to show up on a dateline, because most of us in reality are not going to go out and murder a bunch of people. But they will show up in sort of the everyday evil that we come across, where we arbitrarily other people, where we decide that other people are evil, where we everything that I have mentioned here. And if you are willing to look at that, that is certainly admirable. It is some of the darkest stuff of shadow work. But the good thing about consciousness, about waking up, is that what happens is that you are presented with people and with situations that will show you where you need to do your work. And if you pay attention, you very much can note and notice and see, based off of the breadcrumbs that are dropping your way, what to work on in yourself. So that is it for now. Great question. Um, and uh, And the last thing I'll mention that is that it is always helpful to utilize even celebrities, politicians, and that sort of stuff to see people who clearly take much more than they give, and to use that as a catalyst to our own process, and to question our own energetic reciprocity with others, with the world, with the universe, because that can open us up to so much and can heal even the darkest, most wounded aspects of ourselves, because that's really where we are going to make the most progress, is being willing to look at the energetic vulture within, so to speak.